Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. If you're just joining us, we're using something called Slido to ask questions. It's sli.do, and when you get there, if you hashtag LAC 2017, then you'll be able to ask your questions, and they'll come up on the screen. There it is. Slido.com. I think it also works. Does it also work as sli.do? Yeah, that also works as well. Anyway, Sharon McFarlane is here, and she's going to talk about creating meaningful and useful content that resonates with your users. We talk about content being king after links, and I'm interested to hear her take on it because the other day we're hearing we want really short content because we have a lot of mobile users, and mobile is very important, and we have a 6-second attention span. And then a second ago, Lucas is telling us he wants 800-word, 2,000-word content because it's more meaningful to Google and it understands it better, especially if you write it simply and concisely. And now I want to hear Sharon's take on meaningful content because at the end of the day, it really is users that matter on your site. So, ladies and gentlemen, a warm round of applause for Sharon.
Hi guys, so Slido is new. This wasn't there when I did my last talk, so please be kind, just ask some nice questions for me. Cool, so as Michael said, I'm the Managing Director of Crystal Content. So we are a digital marketing agency but specialise in content in the iGaming industry and have done for the last 7 years. So you will have heard the phrase content is king before, and that's definitely something that we feel, but only if it's used in the right way. So there's definitely some challenges faced by marketers when it comes to content marketing. The biggest complaint we tend to get and the biggest reason why people outsource their content is that they find it difficult to create enough of it. So the volume, it gets scary. But the second problem that they have is finding the content that's resonating with users and getting them engaged and then driving to conversions. So the last thing that you want to be doing is spending hours and hours writing screeds of content but you're not getting anything from it. So people tend to ask, what's the most effective content? What is effective content? Effective content is content that will provoke a reaction. So obviously the ultimate goal is to get them to click on that CTA and get them to convert on your website. However, engagement is also a massive part of it. So content that's shared on social media channels like Facebook, Twitter, Instagram and all that kind of thing, that's then generating engagement. So not only are you getting the traffic to your website, you're also getting your brand out there as well. So if someone's gotten to the bottom of your content piece, then you've done a really good job. Okay. So this is why it's important to make sure that you've got your content strategy in place before you start writing lots of it yourself. So today's successful content is not just about writing lots and lots and lots of it and just seeing what sticks. It's about making sure that you've linked it to your brand, linked it to your customers' intentions before you're putting it on your website. So to do that, the first part of your process should be thinking about the kind of content that you want to put on. So you've got lots of different options there. The content that we tend to produce the most is like blogging articles for websites. But people also think about email marketing campaigns. They'll also think about social content, video content, and even direct mailer content. So what you want to think about is how you would like that message relayed to you. So whatever you're saying, how would you like that put across? So once you've chosen the kind of content that you'd like to use, you need to make sure that your website supports this. So for example, do you already have sections on your website that are good for putting promotional content on there, putting blog pieces, putting engagement on there, or is that something you'd need to add? Do you have a functionality on there where you can have users comment underneath your blogging articles? Do you have social sharing functions? Do you have all of these kind of things to make sure that your content's doing the best it can? If you're planning on sending out email marketing campaigns, do you have a database ready? Do you have the data? Or, if you don't, what are you doing? Are you putting up a pop-up? Is that how you're capturing it? Have you thought about doing something like an incentive to be getting that data back? All of these things are really important when you're thinking about what content you're putting on your website. So normally when we build websites, we do so on WordPress. And there's lots of different reasons for that. Mainly things are editable, quite quickly, so if you were going to do things like that, it's not massive problems. But also they have an analytic function, Yoast that you can put in, and that will analyse your content for you. So it works kind of like a traffic light system. So it's red, green, and amber. Obviously, red means your content's not very good in terms of reading. Amber, it's all right, and green, it's good. So as well as doing it from a readability aspect, it also does it for SEO. So what it will do is it'll analyse your meta descriptions, it'll tell you if you're too long, it'll tell you if they're too short, it'll analyse your meta titles, it'll tell you if it's minimum word counts there. All of that things will be within Yoast to make it as simple as possible for you. So something that's also equally important for your website is making sure that you have got analytics in there and conversion tracking. So Google Analytics is usually the go-to thing, but there is also something else just launched. I don't know if any of you have used it before. It's called True Conversion, and that will allow you to analyse your data even further and tailor your content strategy based on user actions. We'll go into that a little bit more depth as we kind of move on. So is your content doing what you want it to do? So what's vital is that you give your users a clear call to action. So if you have an affiliate portal, which is that what most of you guys have? You use affiliates or operators? Affiliates. So what you obviously want them to do is click on that call to action, send them straight through to the operator site. But to make that as simple as possible, you don't want to be giving them too many instructions, too much data at the one time, so the content needs to be clear and concise. So something I'm asked on a daily basis is how frequently should you update the content on your website. So this is just a self-explanatory chart of how many blog posts you would put on your site to expect it to be indexed. So obviously the sort of general message here is that works best for B2C, which is perfect for affiliates and operators, and the more content you put on there, the more likely you are to be indexed. So if you're writing around 15 articles a month and you're publishing those on your website, then you're doing a pretty good job. So at this point, we've done a few things already. You know what effective content is, you know about the message you want to put across, and you've started to think about how you're going to do that. So what our first part of our process would be to develop a user persona. So you need to think about what those users think, how they tick. So it can be broad things like what gender are they likely to be, it can be what age do they think they are, or do they have a key group interest. Now that's really important because that's how we get the engagement side of things in. So if you're seeing that somebody likes sports or you're seeing that they like whatever it is, you can integrate that in their content to make them get to the bottom of that article. Along with this, what we want to do is create negative personas. It's just as important as user personas. The reason for this is what you don't want to be doing is writing content to appeal to people who aren't going to do anything for you. So you want to make sure that you know who you don't want to visit your website or who you think will get to your website and not complete any actions. So now we're going to go on to the science bit, how you analyse the data. So I spoke briefly just there about Google Analytics, which is always just a must. It gives you content drill down and it'll help you develop your user persona further. It'll tell you exactly how they're behaving on your site, and at first you'll get to see the sort of broader stuff that I was just speaking about there, about the age group, the location, the sort of interest that they've got. But you might want to start digging a little bit deeper. So that's when we're talking about true conversion. So see if you integrate something like that onto your website, what we'll actually do is show you up heat maps. It'll tell you exactly where that user is hovering and which part of the content they're reading the most. And it'll also tell you how long they've been on each content piece. So that means if somebody's been on something for 2 or 3 minutes, it's fair to say that they've enjoyed that article, that's something they'll go back on to read again. And it'll also tell you if there's certain drop-off points, so if there's certain exit pages where they're leaving, and that means that you might need to adjust the content to suit them more. What's also a little bit creepy and a little bit stalkery is that you can also do live video recordings of that user on your website. So it means you can follow them around and see exactly how they've moved, what they've looked at, and how they've been along each page. Genuinely was a bit creepy the first time I seen it, but it is perfect for developing that user persona further, finding out what works and finding out what doesn't. So now you've got your user persona sorted, you've got your content up there, you're starting analysing your data. What you want to start thinking about is how you can get the visitors that are already there to help you get more. And that's back to what we were talking about, social. So what we kind of tend to do with our content is we don't just write it as in a blog article or a big long article is what we were kind of talking about earlier. What we would do is we would add things in there. So things like demo videos for, I don't know, slot games or whatever it is, tend to work really well. Things like product reviews, FAQs, all of that kind of thing, they're shareable. So it means that they're not just interested on it in their website, they might want to share that with a friend. So what I thought I would do is give you an example of content that works. So we wrote this article for a client. It was a bingo affiliate portal. We developed the sort of user persona, got the demographic, and the big story was that this lovely lady won £3.4 million on Iceland bingo. She won that by playing the Millionaire Genie slot. So after spending a few hours playing the Millionaire Genie slot to see if I could be the next big millionaire, what we decided we would do is make that a content piece for this bingo affiliate portal. It was perfect because it was a human interest story. It was perfect because it was timely. It was perfect because it had the right keywords research on there, and it was also perfect because that's a story that people would want to share. It's a human interest story. And we also had the image of that lovely lady with the cheque and the champagne, very excited to spend her £3.4 million on whatever it was. So that was content that got indexed on page 1 on Google as soon as it was uploaded with the relevant keywords. So that's a perfect example of how content would work. So that's back to what we were saying about tailoring that content strategy. So for that particular piece, we researched women aged, I think it was 35 at the time to 40. It was people who were interested in bingo, people who were interested in certain shows, people who would love to see that. So benefits of a content strategy. So improve search engine ranking results. So you can look at tools like SERPs.com, and that'll tell you exactly how you're ranking for certain keywords. It'll also tell you if you're moving up, if you're moving down, and that's where we're talking about the frequency of the content. So the more content you upload, the more likely you are to get up those rankings. Obviously that kind of goes hand in hand with the traffic and conversion rate. The more traffic you've got, the more likely you are to get those conversions, especially if you're following that process where you've got the user persona and you've got all of that sort of sorted so that the click-through rate works well. And it's reasonably cheap and reliable, so the only thing it will cost you if you're doing it yourself is your time, and obviously just spending a little bit more time analysing things as well. Even if you outsource it, it's fairly cost effective as well, and you can fit it around your time, so you can upload the content as you want and when you want. So this lovely movie still, Back to the Future, so what do we kind of think the future of content is in 2017? So this is something that's pretty cool. I don't know if any of you have heard about augmented reality before, or VR. Yeah, it's a very exciting thing right now, and it's something that we're starting to introduce into certain aspects of our content, specifically direct mailers. So what happens is it works a bit like Pokemon Go, and what you can do is you can scan something a bit like a QR code but much more sophisticated, and something will literally jump out at you. So what you could do is you can send people straight to our website, straight to an article, or you can even send them straight to video content. We've been testing this out, and it's something that will be really exciting coming 2017. Accelerated mobile pages, I don't know if anybody's heard of this. This is just Google backed, and it's something that's recently launched just at the end of 2016 there. Essentially this is like an open source publisher form, and it means that as soon as you upload your content, what it wants to do is for it to be mobile responsive and on there everywhere straight away. I don't know if any of you are saying for the UX website design talk that Steve's doing, but I think he'll probably go into that a bit further from a development standpoint. But from content, it's very exciting, and if your website has that sort of functionality where it's got AMP integrated, your rankings will increase as well, because Google recognises that you're taking speed into account when you're uploading your content. And videos, so we spoke pretty briefly about videos before and how important these are. They're important for engagement purposes within your blogging content and within your static content on your website. So you might notice now that in some operators what they've done is when they've been doing product or game reviews, instead of just like the sort of 800 words piece that Michael was talking about earlier, what they're doing is they're doing the demo play video on there as well. So it means that you can get a free trial of a game or a free whatever whilst you're reading what that game's about. So it's good for SEO purposes, it's good for engagement purposes, it's pretty all-round winner. You also might want to look at this for social channels as well for your content strategy there. Facebook just released, I think it was 2 weeks ago now, that what they're going to be doing is meaning that if you've got a video content on your Facebook page, it's automatically going to go on the top of people's news feeds, especially with longer videos. And the reason for that is if people are taking the time to go all the way to an end of a video, they're interested in what you've got to say. So it means that instead of being penalised, you go right to the top. And Google Update. So what's going to be important for 2017? So again, it's all going to be focused on engagement. There's not going to be any substitute for the length of time people are looking at your content and for what they're doing when they get in there. I think Steve's going to go and talk a little bit later about rank brain from a developer standpoint. He's very excited about it. So if you're staying for that talk, you'll hear that then. But yeah, definitely Google Updates are all going to be based on engagement, based in quality over keywords just kind of being stuck in, and based on the length of time that people are enjoying it. And that is everything from me. So if anybody's got any questions, please feel free to give me a shout.
All right. All right, Christopher, Sharon, let's bring up our Slido. Do we have anything on our Slido deck? All right. What does bad content look like? What's bad content?
Bad content, well, the worst example of bad content is, see if you're scraping content from another website. So the worst thing you could do is duplicate it. You can't have copied content anywhere for a few reasons. One, because then what you're obviously not doing is researching your own user persona, like we talked about. You've not analysed what that data is. And second of all, it's really Google will penalise you. So the last thing you want to see is an article one place and then see it somewhere else. It's bad for search engines, bad for readability, just bad in general.
Is there any such thing as good spun content?
In terms of, what do you mean?
Have you ever read spun content that you think, oh, well, it's not too bad. Like, the computer wrote that, but it's by amalgamating some other articles, but it's all right?
I think from a time perspective, I've seen people do it quite well, but it's not the best way to get the results because you've not tailored it to exactly your audience.
Another question that we have. How good is Yoast analyzing content readability within small language groups? For example, is Finnish readability only ranks as Amber?
That's a very good point. Obviously, Yoast is built to analyse things from English or US English. It's not really developed far enough for smaller language groups yet. So that's a good point. It's not as good as what it should be. Will it be proven? I don't know.
Here's a question I have.
Yep.
I have a problem with some of my sites where I'm paying for content, I'm building content, I'm getting just decent content, and then I'm having it stolen by sites from Russia or China or Japan, and they're translating it, and I don't even know. How could I go and check, or is there a tool that you might use where you go and check and see who's just nicking your content and putting it in other languages?
Well, Copyscape has a bit of that functionality, and what you'll do there is when you copy and paste that into that, it will come back and tell you the exact sources, including on occasion if they've translated it into other languages, just stealing it. So Copyscape is a really good tool. It will also help you analyse whether your own content's duplicate, because I know sometimes definitely if you're reading from a website and you're just rewriting it and you think you're changing it, you might not have changed it enough to be 100% original.
Do you have some more questions for Sharon?
Very good.
Here's one. What feature does True Conversion have over Yandex?
Ask me next week because it's only launched last week, so I've not had enough time yet to go through it. But it works kind of like, I don't know if you've seen or used Hotjar before. No, it's a bit like that. So it is quite similar to Yandex, but I'll need to update you later on the advanced features of it.
Not ready yet. Okay, and was there one question from this side before we end the session?
You good?
No, in that case, round of applause for Sharon.
Thank you, Michael.